everybody, Gannon here, back again with another one of my Star Trek reviews. I was really tired and I lacked a little bit of energy in my last review, so I didn't get to do some of the fun things that I wanted to do, like review some awesome comments left by some viewers. In my first review of the season, I made a comment about how I was unsure about the classification of the single nacelle ship that went by the name of the USS Archer in the first episode. That's when a commenter by the name of Michelle Joseph sleuthed out that it was probably the Hermes class starship. She seems super knowledgeable about ship classifications, and yes, it turns out she was right. It was the Hermes class starship. It appears a couple of times in the TOS movie computer screens in The Wrath of Khan and also The Search for Spock. She was quite knowledgeable about the ship classifications, so I definitely wanted to quickly highlight her good comment. Also, I criticized the second episode about leaving the musical egg plotline a little bit open-ended. That's when another commenter by the name of Steve Cooperman came up with this really cool theory that it may have been the aliens who created the protective musical monument that we saw in the Paradise Syndrome of the TOS, which is honestly a really cool theory that made me enjoy the whole musical egg spaceship thing a lot more. And it also reminded me that I crucially need a rewatch of the TOS to be better prepared to review Strange New Worlds. Speaking of the Shepherds though, it really impressed me. I learned that the Shepherd alien turned out to be a real mechanical puppet. It looked amazing. I thought it was CGI. It was super impressive. So definitely give the producers of Strange New Worlds multiple brownie points for not only creating likable actual Trek aliens in the last episode, but taking the time to use mechanical puppetry and give it that real sci-fi feel rather than just creating some CGI. Ultimately always going to be a little bit more lame than practical effects. But with all that out of the way, let's finally get into the review. Today we're going to be reviewing Season 1, Episode 3, titled Ghosts of Illyria. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. I'm going to be saying it wrong for the entire rest of the review. This episode starts off with Una giving a little bit of a narration explaining that the Enterprise is investigating a planet by the name of Herminit 9. This is the site of an abandoned Aurelian colony, and they're here to do some investigation. The Aurelians, we learned, commonly used genetic modification. This made them outcasts in the Federation, and they're here to research what's happened to this colony while it is being bombarded with loads of ion storms and radiation. They're trying to transport away from the planet, and this platform that they're standing on, that this set is actually really beautiful. I like the architecture and the design of it. Transporter operator Kyle is struggling to get them aboard. That's when we pan over to Hemmer in the engineering room, and the engineering room looks way too good. It actually looks flawless. The images that are popping up on the holo emitter screen that Hemmer is looking at, they're just beautiful. Like, the Enterprise is coming up and it's extremely detailed, it's extremely immersive and convincing. Hemmer confidently deals with the issue with the transporters while not even directly looking at the panel. Down on the planet below, Spock is behind from the rest of the away team because he is busy retrieving some old journal records left behind by the Aurelians that are contained in these little, like, cylindrical pods that glow. Captain Pike then goes and leaves the rest of the away team to go and help Spock, tell him to get his keister back to the landing zone. But because the storm worsens, Pike and Spock are stuck on the planet below. It is now time for number one to do her job and take the reins, and she does it beautifully in this episode. Everybody is noticing that the members of the away team are starting to act a little bit strange. Ortegas is walking through the hallway and was weirdly willing to just walk by Ensign Lance. Only took him smashing his head into some glass for her to really get concerned, which was pretty funny. I feel like she just should have been way more concerned before that. She probably should have been, like, willing to report that. She was almost just ready to walk by and be like, oh, I didn't see anything. Una is now back in her room, glowing and just absolutely tripping, and this foreshadows this crazy bombshell that is revealed later into the episode, where we're going to get this huge Dr. Bashir parallel. She rings M'BENGA and then goes down to the medical bay. When she's looking in the mirror, I'm just noticing that she looks so amazing in her uniform. uniform. Her Starfleet uniform is amazing. I love number one. She's such a badass character, and in this episode, it just makes me fall in love with her tenfold. I love this cast. I love her character. It's actually got me freaking geeking and standing. They learn that the crew are now attracted to light, like actual moths. They lack vitamin D so heavily that they start to fiend for light. Vitamin D is naturally produced by your body when in contact with the sun, I'm pretty sure. So this definitely does make a little bit of sense. When Una is talking to Hemmer, trying to come to some conclusion about what's happening, their chemistry is truly electric. All the main cast members, they're all doing a great job. And seeing the chief engineer and the first commander of the ship talk and deal with the situation in a way that me as a viewer, I'm just like eating it with a spoon, definitely gotta get some more brownie points for that. The storm interference, by the way, is so strong that they cannot even talk to the captain. So number one chooses to consult Lon. Because of the nature of the Illyrians being genetically modified, Lon brings up her past, her family lineage, and how being directly related to Khan has caused her to be the victim of teasing and unwanted attention for most of her early life. It's really sick that they're just straight up attacking the elephant in the room, even though it's quickly cut off by the fact that Lon starts showing the same symptoms as the away team, meaning the whole ship is now starting to get affected. They initiate a lockdown protocol. Hemmer is so cool. He just snaps his fingers and his whole engineering staff knows what to do and they start running around. Spock and Pike are having some friendly banter below when Spock's investigation reveals that these Illyrians attempted to de-modify their genetic enhancements to attempt to join the Federation. And after that, Pike and Spock begin to notice some fire rays screaming outside the window and more people come down with this light thirst illness. Weird scene between Hemmer and M'BENGA, foreshadowing another crazy bombshell that's to come later in the episode. They're kind of beefing under stress about how Hemmer's trying to go and investigate M'BENGA's medical transporter, trying to see if there's anything in there that can help them with this whole situation, and M'BENGA is super defensive about him looking through it to the point where he's just kind of mean. After doing some investigating, they learned that the contagion is actually traveling through light. They turn off all the lights on the ship, the big giant bright ones, and then they sedate anybody who's already gone crazy with this illness. This illness draws the crew members to light to the point where they don't even care about hurting themselves. They want as much light as possible. They're literally like moths. Una walks in on a crazy Hemmer attempting to transport a piece of the planet's literal mantle into the freaking transporter room, and this is really awesome to see. This is just so cool. Una has to actually phaser him and carry him on her shoulder, and she does it with no effort and such grace. It's honestly so badass, and even Nurse Chapel later was like, what the hell, are you just like carrying him with no effort? Una is so strong. She is meta as hell. And by 27 minutes in, it's crazily revealed that number one is an Illyrian herself. This explains why she is protected from the disease and also why she was glowing earlier in the episode and why she's having such a strange reaction. I hope that the Illyrians turn out to be cool enough to warrant making that like her subspecies that she's a mixture of. It seemed like when she was doing some investigating, they literally just look like humans. Maybe their nose is a little bit big or wonky, but I hope that the Illyrians are explored more, at least enough to the point where it warrants them giving this species like a role in number one's life, because that's like the huge crazy thing about this episode is that number one is not completely human. They have this One Piece Jinbei Luffy share blood speech down in the medical bay, Dr. M'BENGA and Una, about how a lot of people wouldn't be comfortable receiving blood or a cure from any sort of Illyrian because they're genetically modified, but M'BENGA is like, you know, that's a whole bunch of phooey. Now everyone, even Nurse Chapel, it appears, is out, and things start going really badly. Lon then starts a war core containment breach in the engineering room. This sets in motion my favorite scenes of the entire episode when number one enters the engineering room, attempts to calm the chief of security down, but then when she erratically tries to throw hands, they have this little fight scene, and it is beautifully choreographed. I loved everything about this, but what I loved about it especially is that they made number one like way stronger than I thought they would have depicted her. She's got like superpowers or something. She's meta-human. Long Noonien Singh, she is fighting like a rookie chief of security should be, definitely with some gusto and skill, but you could just see Una is no diffing her, pushing her around the engineering room. It's like a heavyweight versus a lightweight. In boxing, there's just no competition in the weight class, and the power is just totally different. Like, she's on an entirely different part of the tier list, and I'm over here going crazy enjoying this fight fight scene. It's so amazing. Because Lon is also under the influence, she spurts genetically modified slurs, which angers Una and causes her to finish it with a big Kong gun. Una really beats the shit out of her, and it's amazing. The fire wraiths actually end up saving Captain Pike and Spock from the elements of the storm of the planet, which, you know, leads them to do some theory crafting. Spock theorized that the colonists gained the disease, were attracted to the storms, and actually just ran straight into the ion storms and killed themselves. And the electromagnetic properties of the storm carried some of their life essence, some of their sentience possibly, and then created these fire wraiths, these wisps, which is basically a corny sci-fi way of explaining that these people turned into space ghosts. Lon's contact with the light from the warp core reactor created antibodies, allowing them to create an antidote and save the ship. Nurse Chapel did it, but it did appear like she was face planted on the floor before in a previous scene, so I was a little bit confused about that. 33 minutes into the episode and it's not funny at all. Literally an episode where it's all in the dark, everyone is tweaking and trying to set the ship on fire, and I saw some article where the producers were saying Trek can be funny. Was this supposed to be the funny Trek episode they were talking about? Is it supposed to be the episode before, or is it supposed to be the next episode? If not any of these 3 episodes are funny, then I'm just going to be calling BS, because I was reading some articles about how there's supposed to be some funny Strange New Worlds episode, and where is it? I definitely have yet to be seen. I was wondering, would Una be barred from serving from Starfleet if they found out about her genetic modifications, and that's definitely addressed at the end of the episode. The episode ends off with number 1 consulting Lon after their dope scuffle. We get a discussion on the ethics of genetic modification and some explanation from number 1 about Illyrians and how she feels about being one. The Illyrians, we learn, modify their bodies to adapt to different conditions. Rather than changing planets to fit their needs, they change themselves to fit the needs of the planet. They try to live in harmony with it, so to speak, which in my opinion is just some hippie way of justifying them practicing some really dangerous science. It doesn't really make the act of it any better. Una says that it is her most important goal in life to explore the stars and become a Starfleet officer, and then we learn that Lon replies that she agrees and that she also shares that dream because she got it from Una, which is very sweet, and it's just really nice to see. Una now has to admit to the captain about her genetic background. This is a dope and powerful scene. Chris adamantly reassures Una that he cares nothing about what the Federation cares about, that Una is a beautiful example about how misunderstood Illyrians are, and tells her to let him care about Starfleet. Anson Mount is so fire, Christopher Pike is a jock, and that scene made me so happy. That's all I have to say about that. Impeccable delivery of that scene. Totally reminded me about like the Dr. Bashir consulting Captain Sisko about his genetic modifications in Deep Space Nine. There's another reason why ghosts are referenced in this episode title, because at the end of the episode we learned why M'Benga is tripping about Hemmer looking into the transporters. Apparently, M'Benga's almost dead daughter is being stored in the transporter buffer, which is a huge bombshell. It kind of takes elements from both transporter episodes, Relics, and also the Enterprise one, where the inventor of the transporter has a dead son. Kind of weird and Mr. Freezy of M'Benga to do this, like it's slightly unethical in my opinion. The weirdest reaction from number 1, she doesn't react negatively to this at all. She creates a direct power link from the warp core to protect M'Benga's daughter in the pattern buffer, but honestly, this is by far the biggest problem I have with the episode. The way they're depicting his daughter being stored in the transporter buffer is just way off and too casual. It took Scotty, a literal genius, with transporter knowledge like decades into the future, to put himself and his crewmate into the pattern buffer for multiple years, and even then it was dodgy and his partner died. Also, the psychic aliens from the Voyager episode, they made mentions about how keeping yourself suspended in the pattern buffer and undoing it over and over again creates hella problems. So why was M'Benga just summoning his daughter at the end of the episode like she's some kind of avatar in a video game? That better be the last time he's doing that until he finds a cure type thing, because he can't just summon his daughter whenever he wants. That's insane and totally breaks immersion. They're not going to be able to eject the warp core or go like on a full power down for the rest of the season, for the rest of the series, series really until we get M'BENGA's daughter either dead or revived, because then that's just another plot hole. But with all that being said, I love Strange New Worlds to death. I love consuming this new Star Trek more than anything in the world right now. In every new episode we get of this series, it just makes me scream in my head that we need a complete 7 seasons, and also we need some of them to be longer than 10 episodes. That's Star Trek's current greatest sin, is that it seems like they're steering towards making every series just 10 episode seasons, which is not acceptable. I need more content than that, especially from a show this good. We can drop the production value down a little bit if it means that I just get good writing in more episodes. For solid, it's a real ass episode of Star Trek that I thoroughly enjoyed. The only parts I found a little corny was the Illyrian's explanation for turning into sentient phantoms, and also I need a little bit more time to process what's going on with M'BENGA's daughter. But what did you guys think? What did you think of me reviewing comments at the beginning of this episode? Is that fun? Would you like me to do more of that in the future? I've done that before in like some early reviews, but I think it's about time I brought it back. If you're enjoying any of the content that you see on the channel, I'd be super flattered if you were to subscribe. When we hit 10k subscribers, I am going to cosplay as a Star Trek Xenos and probably go harass people in public. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to slap a like on it. If you have anything you would like to share with me, please leave it down in the comments below. I read all comments. They're my favorite thing about YouTube. If you'd like to discuss anything that we discuss here on the channel, join the Discord. The link is in the bottom of every video. And with all that being said, hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Live long and prosper.